To me, the key way to think about it is if you're shooting a bow or a gun, if you have the target close to you, you're going to be able to hit your target much more effectively and efficiently. So, a guy, I think people ought to run a test, but even running a 1-year test isn't super effective because of the variances we have year to year. But in general, you might be able to get away with a 0.8 units of N per unit per bushel yield. Maybe
So
0.9, depending on the year.
Yeah. So we might look at a plan of 0.8 now, like getting to that point. So if you got whatever you have down, think about your yield goal and topping yourself off to get to your 0.8.
Yep, 0.8.
And then we can manage risk by, if we had to go higher, we can let Mother Nature reveal some more cards, how much rain's going to fall.
Even after tassel, if we get into a bad spot and the corn looks great, but we're starting to show some deficiency, you can come in and top it later with an airplane.
We can always look then since we have enough, like you mentioned a little bit about, we have enough to get 80% there. Because we've seen how much weather and how much losses we've had. We can get 80% there, but to get that last 20%, it's going to need the final.
Well, the thing you run into is we warm here. All the nitrogen we apply rapidly converts to nitrate, and so if we're saturated, if your soil temperature in the 70s, it's amazing how much of your nitrogen gases out top of the soil into the atmosphere, and you lose it. And so if we run into those situations where it's very, very wet and warm, that's when we may need to consider going from that 0.8 units in per bushel to maybe a guy gets closer to 1 or 1.1. But at least then we're back to where we used to be from the start. And so again, your efficiencies go up, costs go down.
And that's where I feel like there's a huge value in the thought process of this, especially when we have right now urea is really high, there's a lot of high input costs. And this is one way that we can do it without damaging the end result. And that's the part we're going to do. We don't want to damage the end result. But at the same time, it's too expensive to waste it.
Exactly. And that's what our goal is, reducing the wastage. I mean,
exactly.
You may use a little less, but you may end up using very similar to what you would have. But at least then it's going on in a time frame in the plant's life cycle that can do the most benefit.
And your return at the end stays high, where you need to be.